You're watching Reality Check, This Week in Rewind. Welcome to Reality Check, This Week in Rewind. I'm your host, Quinny B, and this week, I'm going to mix it up a little bit. I'm going to tie the social media segment into the recap. So as I'm getting ready to talk about these shows, I'm going to give you the social portion right then. You ready? Let's get started. This week, I'm going to open up with Blac Chyna. And we're going to open up with her because I think that her episode is by far the easiest to recap and it's going to take the least amount of time. If you recall, last week was her premiere episode and we get to see her dealing with her mother. This is a very toxic relationship, but it's also one that she feels the desire to repair. We pick up right where we left off, and that's with her mother acting a fool outside of Blac Chyna's home. Blac Chyna has already been brought out of her character. I think that she had already had a wall up when dealing with her mother, but at this point, she's ready to fight, right? We hear Blac Chyna talking about, well, then rock me then. She's ready to go. And it's shown even further when she opens the gate to throw her mother's shoe out to her because her mother had thrown her shoe at Blac Chyna while she was in her house. Tokyo Toni seems to be under the impression that Blac Chyna is just straight up disrespectful. She's subscribed to this old school mentality of no matter what your parents do to you, no matter how much they hurt you, no matter how much trauma they inflict, they are in fact still your parents. And so you are supposed to respect them. You're never supposed to go up against them. Your opinion is never supposed to be differing. And Blac Chyna is here to break that cycle, to break that mold. Toni is sitting in the car talking with Wasi, her security, about what had Chyna's grandmother ever done for her. But once again, all Toni's talking about is material things. It's clear that Chyna just wanted to feel as though she was a priority. And she hasn't felt as though she was a priority, I guess, unless her mother was single. Because it's been said several times that her mother was married 5 times and that she matter-of-factly always put her husband before her children. During this episode, you also see Toni talking to Wasi at the hotel as she's saying, I'm leaving. I'm not going to stay here for this disrespect. But you hear her talking about how she hasn't seen her daughter, Angela, not Blac Chyna, but she hasn't seen Angela since Angela left home for the strip club around 16. It sheds a little bit of insight just on Angela's upbringing as well as why this relationship is where it is right now. On Chyna's side, while she's taking photos for her Fashion Nova sponsorship or her ads that she does for them on social media, she, Ashton, and Treasure are talking about the course of events that occurred the night before. Now, mind you, Treasure was missing in action because she has her own issues with Chyna's mother. And the thought behind that was if Treasure wasn't there, then maybe Toni and Chyna could focus on their issues and Toni wouldn't be able to say all of these leeches and all these people that are using you, all these negative influences are here. So while Ashton was there, he actually is able to give Treasure a play-by-play account of what happened and also kind of show that Chyna was not the aggressor. She was not the initiator. And in fact, she was actually trying to be the peacemaker. Somehow Blac Chyna, Treasure, and Ashton come up with this great idea that either Ashton or Treasure should reach out to Toni to see if they can meet up for dinner or something to get this issue resolved. Ultimately, Ashton and Treasure agreed to meet Toni at a park so that they can try to talk things out. This is supposed to be an opportunity for Treasure and Toni to hash whatever unresolved issues that they have. During this meetup at the park, it is clear that Tokyo is not only jealous of Chyna's success, but even possibly suffers from some mental illness. She goes back and forth between acknowledging that she knows Treasure to saying that she doesn't know Treasure, that she's had issues with Treasure, and then she doesn't have issues with Treasure. And what we see is once again an escalation of things, that Toni is just ready to square up anytime, any place, with any person that she views as a threat or a rival as far as it goes with mending her relationship with her daughter. I even want to go out on a limb to say that the only rival that Toni has as far as being able to mend this relationship with Chyna is herself. If she focused more of her energy on actually listening to Chyna and asking her what her issues are, how did we get here, I'm pretty sure that this issue would have been resolved a long time ago. But Toni's not interested in that. She's actually only interested in playing the blame game. The preview for the next episode shows that they're somehow able to get China and Tony to agree to go out to dinner. And I understand China possibly wanting to do this in a public venue because you hope that being in public will get your mother to act like she has some sense. Tony quickly shows that she doesn't care what the venue is. Not only is she going to say what she wants to say, but she's going to behave how she deems is necessary. The preview ends with China asking to move so that she can go to the restroom. And the implication is that she's not going to go to the restroom. She's actually going to exit the restaurant because things are going left and they're going left quickly. Let's talk Growing Up Hip Hop Atlanta. We open at JD's skating event, which is at Cascade Skating Rink, which is a very well-known skating rink here in Atlanta. This will actually be Brat and Deb Antony's first time seeing each other since Deb dropped the bomb that she wants Drea to be a part of the artist boot camp. Like I've said before, I actually think having Drea to be a part of it is a good idea, especially when you get further down the line and we're talking about imaging and branding and what that person's persona is going to be. They are going to need some type of choreography. And I think a prime example of that is Remarkable. They say that she has a great voice, but her stage presence, her choreography could use a little bit of work. And I would say that that's where Drea comes in. And we know that I am not the biggest Drea Kelly fan as far as being on this show. A few local Atlanta celebrities are in attendance, but the small nuggets here are where Drea Kelly's talking about this surprise birthday party that she wants to have for Deb, as well as Brat talking with T-Boz from TLC about her recently filing for bankruptcy. That's something that T-Boz knows all about, and it's also good to just see Black women come together, support each other, and give each other advice. We cut to Bow Wow being out in LA, and although we're not really sure as to why he's out there in LA, we do know that he calls his daughter because she lives out there, and he also meets with Snoop in the studio. Snoop is actually the one that discovered Bow Wow, and he handed him off to JD for development because, as we know, Snoop is like a grown-ass man and just was not capable of developing such a young artist. Bow even admits that Snoop is able to rein him in a little bit more than JD is, which I think is a little odd because I would think that you would show both of them the same amount of respect. They are both very instrumental parts in you being known today and in you being who you are. Also, as we know, this season is kind of a redemption season for Bow. We know about the charges that are going on, and he's really using Grown Up Hip Hop this season to defend himself. So, of course, he's going to talk with Snoop about these recent charges. Snoop definitely is holding no punches. You're out of pocket. You're out here making a fool of yourself. Once your brand is damaged, there's nothing that you can do about that. Why are you allowing people to pull you out of your character, out of who you know that you are? And you got to rein it in. You have to practice self-control. And in typical Bow Wow fashion, he has an excuse for everything. There's a reason why he doesn't have any self-control. And it's not his fault. And what I do appreciate about it is Snoop is just very cutthroat. No, this is your fault. You could have stopped this. You are not practicing self-control. Do better. Snoop holds no bars with him, gives him no room for excuses, and I can appreciate that. In a smaller scene, Ayanna meets with Shania, who's JD's daughter, to play catch up. Shania was way more involved in last season, but it seems as though she's gone off to college and maybe she just kind of wants to be out of the spotlight or no longer in this reality TV world, which is her prerogative, right? But they meet, of course, to talk Brandon, because as we know, Brandon is in quote unquote Firefighter school, which we kind of already see that storyline preparing to explode not only in our faces, but in Brandon's face, more importantly. Brat goes to meet with her sister, Lisa Ray, who is most known for her role in the Players Club. Lisa Ray is Brat's big sister, so of course she's protective. She takes on a more motherly or matronly role, and Brat is just not here to hear that. So Brat wants to kind of unload her stresses to her sister. And while Lisa Ray is trying to take on a more positive attitude, she actually tells her, well, create a vision board. I created my first vision board 7 years ago about being a brand ambassador for a jean line. And I actually own the jean line. You have to speak things into existence. And Brat is just really not there for that. I'll be honest. Brat flips on Lisa Ray really for no reason. she's really displaying this bratty behavior that actually might be the reason why she got her stage name. As sisters do, they blow up, have an argument, things explode, but they also quickly come to a resolve. And while they may not always agree, they respect one another's point of view and they make amends. Shania and Brandon meet up because Shania's already promised Ayanna that she's going to meet up with Brandon to discuss everything that's happened. Brandon also wants to meet with Shania to confirm that they've moved on from whatever issues they've had in the past. And it seems as though Shania is not worried. Hey, I've moved on. It is what it is. And although I don't have the details of what's going on with you and Anaya, I would like for you guys to be able to make up. Can you explain this to me? Also, how's this firefighter school thing going? As I've already said, this firefighter school is about to blow up in Brandon's face. It's confirmed even more in this scene where Shania is asking about the details and he says, well, when I signed up for firefighter school, I thought it was going to be more about climbing ladders and saving kittens. It's like, what? The name of the job is in the title. You're a firefighter. That immediately raises red flags for Shania, and who can blame her? Now it's on to Deb's surprise party, which is being thrown by Drea Kelly. She seems to have rented out a very small event space, and it's more of a sweets dessert. All we see is champagne, cupcakes, cake, just sweets. However, the gesture is still extremely sweet and not lost on Deb. So Teresa, who's Bow Wow's mom, is in attendance. Buku, of course, who's Drea Kelly's daughter. Tammy, who's Deb's daughter-in-law. Anaya, who's, I believe, Deb's niece. So just everyone that's close and important to Deb has shown up to not only show support, but show love for this very special woman on her very special day. And while this party is supposed to be all about Deb, of course, conversation can't help but kind of go over towards Brandon as a topic because he's been very close to Deb. He actually came into her life right after her son committed suicide. And so it's important to note that because it really makes him appear to be a con artist. He's really been able to take advantage of her grief and her longing to have someone in her life to kind of fill that void. And that's what Tammy and Anaya and everyone else is pointing out. Everyone seems to see that Brandon is a con artist with the exception of Deb. So that's where this idea to do all of this research on this firefighter school and his graduation and what firehouse he's actually attending is born. Anaya says, well, why don't you just send flowers to the fire station that he claims to be living at because he's in firefighter school? And because Brandon is still the topic, we close the episode with Deb and Waka going to the Slutty Vegan, which is a well-known vegan restaurant here in Atlanta. And they end up standing outside with their to-go order, eating their vegan burgers, and of course, talking Brandon. Waka is just no holds barred on his point of view as far as Brandon is concerned. He's a con artist. You've welcomed him into our family. We let you have that. We kept that at bay, but now he's actually arguing with family members. He's lying on us. He's causing friction. And so this must stop. Waka's ready to get involved. And he lets her know that you've gotten soft over the years. That old Deb that's ready to square up, that's ready to get down to the bottom of things, pull up on people, make the necessary phone calls, figure out what the truth is by any means necessary, lives in your kids. You may be tired, but we ain't never tired. We ready to do this. And so Deb has some hard decisions to make. Do you follow your children's lead to actually find out the truth and hurt yourself, right? Because it's clear that she's attached to Brandon. Or do you continue to live in this la-la land and look at Brandon with these rose-colored glasses just for the sake of not hurting your own feelings? The preview for the next episode shows that things really do not go well for Brandon, that Waka and everybody, even Deb, is ready to get down to the bottom of it. On to Little Women Atlanta. We open right where we left off. And this is with the Tiny Twins performing their song, every day. So we open with them performing, and we also get to see Abira is lit. Okay. Al is telling her to shut up, sit down. You're too hype. You better act up when you up there on stage. And she is just blackout drunk. Abira hits the stage to perform, and she immediately goes back to her stripper ways. She comes out of this dress that she has on to show a sparkly turtleneck type situation and almost see-through stockings. She's doing splits on a handstand, just Some of everything is happening during her performance. Fortunately, she does not blow it for everyone like it was shown during the previews. Al says that he wants to take all the acts on tour. I'm assuming that that does not include the Cheeks because they weren't there to perform. That's something that Juicy's going to have to work towards. It's important to note that one of the Cheeks, I believe it was Emily, made an Instagram post saying that the entire tour was staged for TV. None of it was real. And when you think about it, this show was actually filmed last summer. So where is the tour? Have any of you guys been on the tour? Has anyone bought tickets? Have we seen any promo? So it puts things in perspective and it makes so much more sense now. Abira's behavior at the showcase has just created just this ridiculous amount of tension between she and the twins. So unfortunately, although all of the acts have been invited to go on this tour together, they're going to have to kind of squash this before they actually go on this tour together. Abira and Bumpman meet up the next day, and Abira admits, well, yep, I got a little too sauced up. It hit me faster than I thought, and I actually did black out. I don't remember anything. What is clear is that while Bumpman is not upset with her, he's not like, oh, let's stop dating. I can't be with anybody that can't handle their liquor. He's actually super understanding about it. But what is clear is that Abira owes everyone an apology. Emily and Bree are back in Texas, right? Because Emily has now given birth to her baby boy. The question now is that because they both missed the showcase, how will Juicy manage to get them on the tour? That seems to be their final prerogative as this season closes. Juicy and Minnie meet up, which who would have thought that that would have even happened? These ladies cannot stand each other, but when it comes down to getting that check, they're going to do what it takes to make sure that their artists are able to act right and get it together for this tour. What's funny is that it's actually not Juicy and Minnie's artists that are conflicting. It's actually Minnie's artists specifically. But Juicy, as the vet manager, is even willing to come in and give Minnie some tips on what she needs to do to try to get this issue resolved. The one thing that everyone is able to agree on is that Abira needs to extend the olive branch and apologize to everyone first. Minnie meets with the twins briefly, and the same sentiments are echoed, that Abira owes them an apology, that they've been nothing but nice to her and supportive because they are on the same management. They are all little people, and so they are all supposed to have each other's backs. And I'm really concerned about how Minnie's going to be able to pull this off because even she and Abira have had a very tumultuous management relationship. Because of all the conflict and Abira's actions, what we end up settling on is this quote unquote round table. Everyone agrees that Abira needs to apologize. So why not get all of the artists, management, and everyone there so that she can do it all at once? Auntie Sue and GC call a meeting with both Minnie and Juicy to share the good news. What you would think is that because of Abira's actions, Auntie Sue doesn't want to back them because, as she said in the beginning, she is not with the drama, but she says that she's so impressed and she wants to get in on the ground floor. So she's ready to back all of the LPs. The show closes out with this aforementioned round table meeting where Abira is supposed to apologize. One thing is clear is that over the course of 1 or 2 days, Abira has had a change of heart. She's found out that they're still going on the tour. Auntie Sue is backing them, or that's the information that's shared at this round table. And so she feels like, well, what's the need in apologizing? I clearly wasn't that bad. I didn't ruin anything, and I'm ready to move on. So while the round table did not necessarily go as expected and things did get a little heated, it's great to see that the LPs are able to stick together and support each other in spite of their differences. And of course, like all season finales, the show ends on a positive note. They all do a toast and celebrate all of their recent accomplishments. One thing that I do wish, because as mentioned, this show was filmed last year, is that we would get a reunion, and maybe one that started filming maybe 2 episodes ago, so that we're able to really get an update on where they are now. Kind of like how they do Love and Hip Hop and all of these other reality TV shows. And also, being that the tour was fake, then what is going to be the premise of the next season? And since last season was filmed during the summer, does that mean that they're filming now? Because I still haven't heard anything about a tour. There are just so many unanswered questions here. On to Basketball Wives. The ladies are in San Diego for this girls trip that Shawnee has planned, and things are going downhill quickly. Evelyn thought that she was going to be able to be civil and be in a house with Jennifer again, and it's clear that this is just not something that she's capable of. She's not willing to let go of these alleged remarks that Jennifer said about Shawnee's, which is so unfortunate because it was so long ago. Jennifer, of course, brings a +1 because who doesn't want backup? And so even Dominique ends up being in Jennifer's line of fire because she's guilty by association. There are so many conflicts in this house that it's even hard to keep track of. And OG and Jen are tied as far as the conflicts go. So are you ready to run down the list? There's OG versus Malaysia and OG versus Kristen. There's Jen versus Malaysia and Jen versus Evelyn. Just so many issues here. Who thought that this girls' trip was a good idea? Kristen also brings a +1, which is her friend Vanessa, but of course, she doesn't catch any of the slack that Jennifer catches. Shawnee's trying to get the details for the night together because clearly you have to eat, and in Basketball Wives fashion, traditionally, the ladies have dinner together. Evelyn is very clear about she does not want to sit at a table with Jen, and she has her supporters as well. So if Evelyn's not going to go, then neither is Jackie and neither is Kristen or Malaysia. It's definitely a house divided. Dominique, OG, and Jen just want positive vibes. They're not here for the negativity, and they don't understand why we can't just let bygones be bygones. In an attempt to clear the air so that everyone can go to dinner together, Jackie recommends the ladies just hashing it out while they're in the home. Of course, things quickly go wrong. Evelyn is up jumping over tables, drink throwing, all because of this quote-unquote latchkey comment that Jen made about Shawnee's. Jen says, well, Evelyn's not innocent. She said negative comments about my mother. And while I was initially perplexed, VH1 does a great job of giving us that flashback and showing us actually what Evelyn said. Evelyn, in fact, said nothing negative about Jen's mother. What she said was, your mother passing has turned you into an asshole. It was actually more of a question and more of a dig on Jen, which Evelyn confirms in her confessional. Jen is escorted off of the patio where the argument ensues, and Evelyn quickly sets her sight on Dominique because Dominique's Jen's proxy, right? Isn't that how that works? And Dominique quickly lets it be known, girl, I'm down for whatever. We can square up. I'm not afraid. But let's be clear. I'm not the person that you have the problem with. Dominique and Evelyn actually, by the end of this episode, kind of end up being allies. Dominique is kind of able to be in the middle of Evelyn and Jen and facilitate a quote-unquote apology so that they can all move forward. Post-patio brawl, Jackie and Shawnee go out to the guest house, which is where OG, Dominique, and Jen are staying. And they just kind of want to clear the air and see where Jen's head is. They want to try to understand where she's coming from so that they can go back to Evelyn on her behalf and make Jen's case. Jen is still mourning her mother, and it's very clear. Jen has a very transparent moment where she wants to apologize for anything that she may have done, but stops short there. She says that Basketball Wives are supposed to be a sisterhood, and she's not feeling the sisterhood, that she's grieving her mother, that she's just experiencing so many things right now. And while she would want them to rally around her, no one is doing that. Jen also knows that she feels like while everyone is kind of holding her accountable, that there's no accountability for Evelyn. I can agree with that a little bit, but the basis that Jen is placing this on, or the backing that she's using, is faulty because Evelyn never said anything about Jen's mother. Malaysia and Kristen talk family, and Malaysia says, well, I had a little side chat with OG and kind of let her know that while Byron shared that information with you about Thomas, Byron didn't share it with you with the intention of you using it as ammunition against Kristen, which I personally thought was common sense. Of course, he's not sharing that as ammunition. Byron just doesn't live in shame. No, I'm not his biological father, but I am really the only father that he knows. I am his father. He is my son, and there's no shame in that for me. So while OG tried to use it as ammunition, being that this is a well-known fact because Thomas has his biological father's last name, it just makes me feel as though all of this has been blown out of proportion. Malaysia and Kristen agree to let the past be the past, that this is no longer important. There's no reason to even approach OG about it. Let's just let bygones be bygones. And kudos to them, because that is the real adult thing to do. OG is not really going to admit to her portion. And really, Cece is the monster behind it. While I don't think she shared this with OG with ill intent, I think that Cece needs to own up to her shit talking behind the scenes as well. Jackie and Shawnee go back to Evelyn and share the conversation with her that they had with Jen. And Evelyn softens and, okay, I'll come to dinner, but I expect an apology at said dinner. The ladies head out to dinner and Jackie comes up with this idea to try to break the tension because no one's talking. Let's play a game, confession session. So it's supposed to be a fun game where you ask questions or you pose questions to people around the table and they're required to answer honestly. Of course, the questions start out lighthearted and sex-based. How many partners have you had? Things of that nature, which quickly gets shut down. And then Kristen goes ahead and cuts to the nitty-gritty of it. Jen, do you think that you and Malaysia can ever move on? No. Evelyn goes, well, Jen, did you ever talk negatively about Shawnee's? Jen goes, no. And so Jackie, Shawnee, Evelyn, and Phoebe, who was in the room when Jackie and Shawnee went back to share this info, are rightfully confused. You said that you apologized in the pool house or in the guest house for anything that you may have said, but here at dinner, the answer is just no. Jen shares in her confessional that she feels as though this conversation is not one that's meant for the group, so she would much rather just have this conversation with Evelyn one-on-one. What I can't understand is why Jen isn't concerned with attempting to have a one-on-one conversation with Evelyn, because Evelyn is extremely explosive. Evelyn kind of comes back in defense and goes, well, these conversations weren't had in private. They weren't brought to the table in private. All of this trifling stuff that you were trying to do as far as pinning that I slept with Shaq behind Shawnee's back, all the fake and phony and backstabbing things that you were trying to do weren't happening in private. They happened on national TV and it happened in front of this group of ladies. Evelyn feels as though she deserves a public apology. And for once, I actually kind of agree. It's the next day and Evelyn apologizes to everyone for her behavior the day before, and I guess as well as her frustration at dinner. Dominique and Evelyn have this kumbaya moment where Evelyn is able to explain to Dominique where her frustration and her issues with Jen lie. So that allows Dominique to be an ally for Jen as well as play peacemaker amongst the two. Jen comes into the home, into the kitchen while they're preparing breakfast, and Dominique goes out poolside to grab Evelyn so that they can have this one-on-one conversation. Shawnee's in the room and I think Dominique are in the room, and they are actually able to sort of make amends. What I think is odd is that although Evelyn kind of accepts the apology, I don't think it was a true apology. Jen says, I apologize for anything that I may have said about Shawnee's. I love that girl. I would never want to hurt her. But the question is, did you say it or did you not say it? If the issue is a couple of things that you may have said in particular about Shawnee's being a latchkey kid, then you need to apologize specifically for those things. For once, Evelyn is human and is even willing to accept this super fake half-ass apology just with the desire to move on. And it's ironic because while I wanted Evelyn to grow up, I didn't want Evelyn to crumble and take a fake ass apology, the first apology that came. It's either all or nothing. If Jen wasn't going to apologize and really take accountability and be sincere, then just don't apologize and Evelyn can move on from that. But Evelyn did not deserve this fake ass apology, and I, for one, did not expect her to accept it. Now on to the Love and Hip Hop Atlanta reunion. It's crazy how long this season was and how much has happened. But am I wrong to say that this season has been a little uneventful? We open with Jock's relationship history, which kind of calls into question this exclusivity timeline with Kendra. Kendra says that she's been with him exclusively for 3 years. But 2 years ago, he was at the cabin flirting with Carly. Now let's point out that both of them deny being intimate. But then there's also this conversation around Sharonda, Jock, and these other stylists. Carly even goes as far as to call out Jock for being with Cena during some times where he was allegedly with Kendra. So there's just a whole lot of overlap and just a ridiculous amount of confusion. One thing's for sure. I personally think that because Carly's unhappy in her personal life, she has a personal vendetta to kind of make other people unhappy or make sure that their worlds unravel. She's way too involved in what Jock and Kendra have going on. Kendra goes, well, none of that matters because I have a ring. And Carly goes, yes, girl, you got the ring. You got a ring. None of the past matters. Like, Carly's just going above and beyond to attempt to make Kendra look stupid. It's just a crazy attempt to belittle Kendra. And I just can't understand where all this effort is coming from. If she put half as much effort into repairing her relationship with Arkansas Mo, they'd be married by now. We then cut to Stevie, Ty, and Mimi. We get a little background on Stevie and Faith, where Stevie knows the exact date that he and Faith Evans met. It was on November 20th, 1999. What he wants people to understand is they were both very respectful to their partners during that time. And so while, yes, she is Biggie's wife, his widow, that man is gone. So let that man rest in peace and let these two people be in love and start a new life. I can't argue with that. But now when we get to talking about Ty, Mimi, Stevie, and Faith and this co-parenting and this issue that Stevie has with Ty being around Eva, it really just comes off as unjustified. Stevie tries to poke holes, basically saying that Mimi has had sex with some of Ty's teammates. I think Stevie is just a tad bit jealous, and although he's at this reunion trying to portray himself as the good guy, trying to be super nonchalant, he's even trying to appear as a jokester, he still comes off as a little spiteful, and I can't figure out what that is. You're married to Faith Evans. You've allegedly moved on. What is this vendetta against Mimi and Ty? Bottom line is that this co-parenting situation is not going to improve anytime soon. Next up is Scrappy, Bambi, Erica, Mama D, and just this whole Imani situation. One thing that's clear during this whole family ordeal is that Mama D is now the mediator. She has grown completely. She says that Erica's children, although they are not Scrappy's children, are her grandchildren, which is crazy because if you remember when she and Erica first appeared on Love and Hip Hop, they could not stand each other. What is clear is that Bambi and Erica and Scrappy are just in a super negative space. Bambi says, well, when you text him, you text us, which to me comes off as extremely insecure. Scrap says, well, why do you need to talk to me when you can just text me? And while I understand where Erica's coming from, sometimes it's just easier to call. I'm not always in a place where I can text. It really comes off as them being super bitter about this child support situation. One thing that I want to explain is that people don't seem to understand how child support works. I'm reading the comments and they go, well, Scrappy pulled out his phone showing that he's paid child support for the last 3 months. So how does he owe back child support? Well, that's actually not how back child support works. What it means is that although he may be current on child support as of recent, somewhere in the past, since being put on child support, he's missed at least 3 payments. That's what back child support is. So stop saying Erica was looking dumb when he pulled out his receipts, because showing that you paid the last 3 months doesn't mean that you don't owe back child support. And if that's really what this is about, my answer to that is grow up. Get over it. She probably would have never put him on child support if she felt as though he was supporting Imani the way that she was supposed to be supported. What makes it even crazier for me is that unfortunately, reality TV is forever. So Imani's going to grow up and be able to see this and be able to see this bitterness and this animosity. It's clear that Scrappy just has some type of jealousy for Erica. He couldn't even pretend to be interested in the portion where they're showing where she's about to give birth to her twins. He starts bringing up, well, where he at? Where that baby daddy at? Why I gotta support them kids too? And it's like, no, whatever child support you give me goes towards Imani for whatever I deem to be fit. Don't be worried about what's going on with me and my relationship. You're not even with him. It's like there's an attempt to slander Erica at all costs. I've just never seen people be so invested in someone that they claim to not even care about. You probably have seen the Instagram drama going back and forth between them as well. Bambi commented on the Love and Hip Hop post about the reunion, citing that they were angry during the reunion because the police was called on them. Erica also took to Instagram Live to clear her name, citing that the only reason that she called the police was because she was told by someone that knows both of them that they were going to call the police on her when she went to pick up Imani. She also cites that Scrappy has a tendency to not return Imani at the predetermined or the pre-agreed upon time. All I can say is that the only person losing in this situation is Imani, and I definitely hope it gets better. Next up, they talk about Carly and Arkansas Mo. They give us a brief recap of their relationship, and what is clear is that Mimi and Rashida are concerned. They just want to see the happy, lively Carly that they used to see. Carly is still very much a shell of herself and even goes on the attack towards Mimi. Well, you and Ty, it wasn't always peaches and cream. It wasn't always roses. Y'all have been through things. And you can see Mimi's face go, because it's unnecessary. And to me, it's really like a battered woman syndrome. I am a firm believer at this point that Arkansas Mo is beating Carly at home because she's super defensive. She's a recluse at this point. And it's just ridiculous. If your friends are coming to you out of love and they're not necessarily saying break up with him, but we are concerned for you and for you to lash out at us, where there's smoke, there's fire. Carly says that she and Arkansas Mo are working through things. And so while they are not yet married or possibly not even living together, they quote unquote respect their engagement. So I guess that means no extramarital affairs. This episode closes with Carly and Pooh going back and forth about this whole threesome and the shitty sheets debacle. Carly agrees to take a lie detector test, but it's important to note that during this lie detector test, Carly looks as though she's taking an Ambien, a hydrocodone, a Vicodin, something to calm her down and slow her heartbeat. To me, it's very clear that Carly's been taught how to pass a lie detector test. Pooh denies the request to take a lie detector test, citing that she took one also off camera on her own terms and paid $500 for it. And so she was not willing to take another one. But of course, it wouldn't be Love and Hip Hop Atlanta if they didn't leave us with the cliffhanger. Right as the questions are being read, we are left hanging. And last but not least, let's talk Real Housewives of Potomac. It is 4 hours after this infamous hoedown, and all of the ladies have returned to their respective corners and they are living their regular lives. Candace and her mother are now sitting down and doing their homework that Dr. Ken has given them. They're supposed to drop a contract, and in the contract, they're supposed to list 3 things that they agree to not do. These 3 things are supposed to improve their relationship with one another, and I think really just make them better people overall. The important thing to know is that Dr. Ken says while you can't control what the other person does, you definitely have control over yourself. So in short, these are supposed to be goals that help them work towards self-control. It's something that they clearly struggle with because during this scene, all they're doing is kind of playing the blame game and throwing daggers at one another. Candace calls her mother pretty much the queen of shade, and I think that they're both actually pretty shady. Ashley is back to work at Oz, and she says that she and Michael are closer than ever, citing these new butt-squeezing allegations. Giselle stops by to visit, and in shady Giselle fashion, she wastes no time asking the important questions. How else would you keep this season going? Giselle goes, so you're okay with butt squeezing? And so Ashley goes, well, by you asking that question, you're implying that you believe that he did it. Yeah, girl, he did it. That's his MO. Ashley sticks to her story of not being able to talk about it because it is now pending litigation. I actually haven't heard anything else about it, so I can't wait to see where we land at the close of this season. Monique is headed in for her 3D sonogram, and apparently it is a tradition in her household where you invite family and friends to be a part of the viewing of the baby. One thing that they don't like in the Samuels household is to know the gender of the baby. So doing the 3D sonogram kind of gives them a better idea of what the gender could possibly be. Monique invites both Karen and Candace to be a part of this event, and it's proof that she and Candace are able to make amends and be adults and move forward in their sisterhood. I thought I saw a beer in Chris's hand while they were in the doctor's office. That's weird to me. It would also explain why Monique is driving, but you can't not drink for a couple of hours while we do this with our friends and our kids, because all of the kids were there. Of course, after the sonogram, Candace, Monique, and Karen all talk about what happened at the hoedown. Things were just really a catastrophe, and Candace has to really rein in her emotions, and ultimately they kind of feel sorry for Ashley. Giselle takes her girls apple picking, and while she admits that they are not outdoorsy people, it is a great bonding experience. The most unfortunate thing is that her middle daughter, Angel, or one of her twins, I can't necessarily say the middle daughter, Angel feels unimportant. She doesn't feel as though she's noticed or even cared for. She says that Giselle shows favoritism to the other two. And while Giselle vehemently denies this, it's very difficult to argue with the child and what their experience with you is. Ultimately, the common consensus is that Grace is Giselle's favorite and that Giselle does not spend enough time at home with her girls. Ashley goes to counseling because, of course, this whole thing with Michael has taken its toll. And she admits that Michael is not only her husband, but she married him because he's kind of a paternal figure to her. Her counselor kind of forces her to explore that and figure out why that is. And what we find out is that Ashley does not have a relationship with her father, that she's actually reached out to him on Facebook where he blocked her. This absence of a father has kind of created this void in Ashley's life that she's kind of expecting Michael to fill in one way or another, which is really impossible. She also admits that she feels the need to be strong for Michael, to put on this brave face, to be this unbothered person because she wants to protect her husband. But who's protecting Ashley? Giselle and Angel go out for one-on-one time because, of course, it's time to do damage control. Let your baby girl know that she is important. And Angel still sticks by, I don't feel important. Giselle kind of clears the air and says, well, it's not that you're not important. It's just that I don't have to worry about you. You are the responsible one. You're the independent one. I know that you're going to make the good grades. You're going to do everything that you're supposed to do. And I appreciate you for that. But at the end of the day, Angel's still a little girl. She still needs her mom. And Giselle promises to do better. Ashley goes to visit her mom to talk about her concerns with not having a relationship with her father and the impact that it's having. As Ashley's trying to conceive, just so many questions are coming up. And surprisingly, her mother is supportive. Your father's never been there. You've probably talked on the phone with him once, or you've probably spoken on the phone with him once. But if you feel as though you need to go and seek after him and speak with him to fill this void or to get the answers that you desire, I support you. I did not see that coming. This episode closes with all of the married couples going out to dinner. So that's Karen and Ray, Chris and Monique, Candace and her Chris. This is Candace and Chris's first night out as a married couple. And so it's very sweet, very cute. What's gross is that romantic moment that Karen tries to have with Ray in front of everybody while she's swallowing the oyster. No one asked for that. And of course, the conversation about Ashley and Michael comes up. When did this happen? And we find out that it happened in Monique and Chris's basement during the rainbow party. So where's the footage? They're saying that there's no way that Michael wasn't mic'd up or that someone didn't get some type of photo. And Chris, Candace's husband, divulges that he's actually been named as a witness to it because he was kind of in the vicinity. Although he swears he didn't see it happen. The plot thickens and Bravo leaves us right there. They just give us a little bit to hang on to. And that wraps it up for this week's episode of Reality Check This Week in Rewind. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this episode, make sure to hit like and subscribe. And while you're at it, go ahead and follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter so that you're always a part of the conversation. And I can't wait to chat with you next week. Bye-bye. This video has been Queenie B approved. Thanks for watching. But don't stop there. Let's head on over to Instagram and Twitter and keep the conversation going. I'll meet you there. Bye-bye.